Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority Regular Finance Committee meeting for today, Thursday, June 12th, 2025. And with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order and go to roll call and pledge of allegiance. Madam Secretary, if you call the roll.
Gladly. Committee Chair Martin.
Present.
Committee Member Millibar.
Here.
And Committee Member Palmer.
Here.
Great. I do also want to take a moment and acknowledge that we have other DCA board members and alternates online. So we have alternate Director Plinsky, Director Chang, and I believe that's all the folks that we have online. So thank you.
Very good. We move to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all would please rise, put your hand over your heart, face the flag wherever you are, and join me. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move on to item 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda at this time. Speakers are generally limited to 3 minutes each. However, the chair may further limit this time when reasonably based on the circumstance. Persons wishing to speak may do so remotely through the electronic meeting link by scanning the QR code or teleconference number when recognized by the chair. The DCA encourages public comments and requests that speakers present their remarks in a respectful manner within the established time limits and focus on the issues which directly affect the DCA or are within its jurisdiction. Do we have any public comment?
Chair Martin, we do not have any public comment requests for this item.
Very good. We'll move to item 4, approval of the minutes. One item, the May 21st, 2025 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Do we have any public comment before we consider this?
Chair Martin, we do not.
I move we approve.
Any questions from the committee on the minutes? I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
I move we approve. Palmer.
Motion by Sarah Palmer,
And I'll second that, Millibar.
second by President Millibar. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair Martin,
Yes.
Committee Member Millibar,
Yes.
Committee Member Palmer.
Yes.
Meeting minutes approved. Thank you.
Very good. We can move to item 5. Discussion items, the meat of today's meeting. Item A, review of the final draft of the 2025-2026 budget. Recommended action, once the presentation is made, is for the Finance Committee to recommend by motion that the Board of Directors adopt the proposed budget for FY 25-26. Mr. Bradner.
Thank you. Thank you, President Martin. So we have a couple of items here. We'll start with the board memo. We have refined the budget from the draft we presented last month, and so we'll go through those changes. Yes.
Brief timeout. I have nothing on my screen, by the way.
Oh, you've lost screen coverage? Okay, hang on one sec.
It's in the board
I have it.
packet.
Your screen is functional?
Screen is functional.
Okay,
Please
great.
proceed.
So I do have a presentation to share some details, just to touch on the high points. Proposed budget of 65 million for next fiscal year 25-26. Includes a revised unallocated reserve of 4.2 million. Based on the feedback from this committee, we do anticipate bringing the final budget to the DCA Board of Directors for approval, consideration and approval at the June 18th meeting. So that's next Wednesday. This document, the memo included, the package is providing additional details to support the committee's review. Our planned work over the upcoming year, we're going to largely focus on continuing our support to DWR for permit efforts. That generally for the DCA revolves around providing technical information, the individuals that perform the engineering concept design work, helping to clarify any needs with engineering aspects of the project. Working closely with DWR to develop the environmental compliance plan, establish the systems and monitoring for collecting environmental information and reporting that information. Engineering analysis, design, and documentation for a system-wide basis of design report that will be used to support an updated cost estimate planned for next fiscal year after the upcoming 25-26 fiscal year. Developing and refining the overall program schedule, including increasing detail around permit requirements, design construction, refinements and innovations, data collection scenarios, contracting mechanisms, and other funding considerations. And then continuing to develop the DCA standards, procedures, requirements, so that we can efficiently transition into the delivery phase, pending the participating public water agencies' decisions to implement the project planned for 2027. So that's our main focus over the next fiscal year. And I'd now like to transition to the presentation, if that's okay. There are other attachments. Committee Chair Martin, the attachments include the budget summary and detail attachment. We've got high-level summary versions as well as more detailed depictions of the budget distributions. The very, very detailed budget by vendor table also has been updated, and then the budget presentation that we'll now use to review. Okay, let's go ahead. So in terms of the agenda for the presentation, we'll start with our budget planning timeline. So we're pretty close to completing that process. Then focus on the proposed revisions to the FY 25-26 scope and budget. Of course, time for Q&A. And then pending the committee's position on this, the recommended action would be that the Finance Committee by motion adopt the proposed budget, recommend to the board that the budget be adopted, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it, once we get through our conversations here. Next slide, please. So our timeline, we're on the far right now, June 12th. This is the third Finance Committee meeting of this fiscal year cycle. Next Wednesday, we do have the scheduled Board of Directors meeting. So this would be the opportunity for the Finance Committee to understand the revisions, ask any questions, requests for revision that we would then carry forward and develop in anticipation of next week's board meeting. Next slide, please. Go ahead. We talk about this WBS just about every time we touch on these topics. I mean, the main takeaways, we have three phases: program management office, that's where aspects, the executive office, that's where a lot of the management team resides. We've got program initiation, that has traditionally been where the engineering work has occurred. The field work associated with earlier evaluation of alternatives was also conducted within program initiation. However, now that there is a selected project, the Bethany Reservoir Alignment, the investigative work has shifted into the program delivery phase. So program delivery will ultimately be where the final design and construction activities occur, so that activity will continue to grow substantially through delivery of the program. But for now, it's just a couple of early tasks around the geotechnical data collection, surveying, mapping, all of the field investigation work that's now focused on the selected project within the program delivery phase. Next slide, please. So now we'll get to the changes. So we have the 65 million total budget that's being requested. The red numbers on the far right, that column, those indicate all of the changes since the May 21st review of the draft budget. I will talk a bit more about the nature of these changes and why so many have occurred between the draft and final. Overall, you can see the level of change moving, comparing between the May 21st budget versus the revised budget. They're kind of nudging this way and that, sort of moving up and down in some areas. Overall, numbers are generally very similar. I can answer questions here if you prefer, but I have more information on the next couple of slides about why those changes are occurring. Okay, I'll keep going to the next slide. So first of all, we've issued a couple of new bits of information since that May 21st meeting. It is time at the DCA that we start stepping up our on-site present expectations for all of our vendors. The previous requirements were 2 days a week. We're now stepping up to 3 days a week across the board. So that's introduced a lot of additional travel requirements that we're now capturing in the revised budget. So that has introduced some additional expenses that were previously not identified and therefore are now more explicitly captured to ensure that we have all the staff traveling to the office in a manner that meets the requirements. Our next step to 3 days a week is anticipated to start July 1st and carry forward from that point. We also have done a complete overhaul of the billing rates within all of our contracts. This has been something that we've been working on. It's been a series of steps to get to this point. I would say we're not done. This is an interim set of cleanup measures that we're taking to simplify the base labor rates or simplify the billing rates, to separate and extract the travel costs and the other direct expenses that were previously built into the rates are now separated out explicitly and will be reimbursed based on those actual costs. And so in doing that, a lot of the numbers have shifted around. And so that's why you're seeing substantial changes through this program or through the budget numbers. It's associated with these two major changes being, number one, the travel expectations, which have refined some of the expense costs, and then the separation of all of those costs out into separate line items, which end up being in different locations within the work breakdown structure. So you have these numbers kind of moving and nudging around. In general, though, if you look at things at a high level, comparing the phase budgets, we're generally pretty on par with, the top line budget for the program management office. We had a previous budget of 26.8 million. We're now at 26.5. Program initiation, which is where all the BODR work is being performed, was previously at 26.1. Now we're at 27.3. And then program delivery was previously at 12.1. We're now at 11.2. So numbers kind of nudging around, shifting around, but it's all associated with cleaning up and reconciling with the new approach surrounding travel and also expenses and ODCs. I will note that the updated expectations on travel costs and reimbursement of those costs are consistent with the travel policy updates that we'll be bringing to the board next week for adoption. That is a board adopted policy, and we'll be bringing that as part of the main agenda item next week. Okay, next slide, please. So looking at the vendor changes, again, similar to that slide 2 slides ago, we've got the proposed FY 25-26 values there. Those were identified back in at the May 21st meeting. Now we have the revised FY 25-26 by vendor costs that are reflected in the farthest right set of numbers. A couple of other changes here to note, which do I think help answer the question as to why some of these numbers have changed and why the unallocated reserve is down from about 5 million to where it is now at 4.2. They're evident here in this comparison. So working our way down from the top, the Jacobs, which was our largest single vendor, those numbers are very similar. They're really just refinements and tweaks, but overall the budget numbers are very similar. With Parsons, we have increased travel costs associated with more of those folks coming. There's been a lot of our Parsons team that has been remote since through COVID and since COVID. And with the updated travel requirements and on-site requirements, we have seen a couple $100,000 of additional travel costs coming through the Parsons team. That's our program support team with a number of key staff there that we need to come and be present. The AECOM numbers, again, just refinements, not substantial changes. Working our way down, Lucas Public Affairs. This is our new communications team that's coming on board. We are starting to ramp up some of the activities. We had a placeholder in the May 21st budget of 900,000. That was based on past work over the past several years. We just kind of used a number that we felt was representative. But now that we've had more time to negotiate the specific scope of work with them for next week and really develop a more detailed bottoms-up estimate for their task order, Yeah, we're finding it's about 150,000 more than what we had plugged in as a placeholder. Additionally, just underneath that, we had a placeholder of 600,000 for deputy director services. We will be bringing the contract to the board next week to award those services. But in the meantime, we've been negotiating the contract as well as negotiating the task order for next fiscal year. I'm happy to say we're going to ramp up that deputy director a little bit faster than was anticipated. We're going to be able to actually get more participation there. So a pretty significant difference in cost relative to the 600 we'd anticipated, now up to 976.5. So that's another relatively significant change from the May 21st board meeting associated with ramping that individual up. The remaining changes are pretty minor. You can see, if anything, they're just kind of nudging around. And again, it's just largely associated with cleanup, with the rates that I described. Next slide, please. So there are additional materials available, and the material presented in the presentation or any of the backup attachments are all available for discussion, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Graham. Do we have any public comment on Mr. Bradner's presentation?
Chair Martin, we have not received any public comment requests for this item.
Thank you, Claudia. Before we open up to questions from the committee, I have just questions so that we can have a even basis on how to evaluate what you presented, with the exception of the placeholder numbers. There were no significant scope changes resulting in the minor changes in the refined numbers. Is that a true or an accurate understanding?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. I'm just pausing to think if there were any additional. And Claudia, I'll look to you. I know you were really helping and plugged into this. I cannot think of any other scope changes from the May 21st board meeting.
I would just that through the refinement process of doing the rate adjustments, we have added line items to the detail, which is included in the packet, that identifies the ODCs and the travel costs associated with that refinement process.
Right. So they're just explicit, but there's no
Right.
new scope
No
there.
new
It's
scope.
just a change in our approach. And so I think
So,
the short answer is no.
Yeah.
so pretty much the changes represent the way in which the various members of the team price their service.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. With that, open it up to questions from our two other committee members. Who'd like to go first? President Millibar or Member Palmer?
Well, this is Millibar. The only noticeable change is under geotechnical, because we don't have the authority to do the work that we wanted to. Is that right?
Well, you're right, committee member Millibar, that we have funding in geotech. Now, let me just provide a little bit more detail in terms of what that represents. That work is currently enjoined, so you're correct. We're prevented from doing geotechnical work right now. But we have included in the budget a pretty modest, relatively small investigation program for next spring. So we're giving it time still for the legal issues to resolve, and we did want to capture some amount of geotechnical work in the scope and budget for this next fiscal year. And so when you look at the items, the detailed items, that's what's represented by the AECOM included work. That's associated. So right there at the top, the fieldwork geotechnical, the 4.1 that you see there, that is associated with a pretty small program that we have planned for next spring, pending resolution of legal issues. The other location that we have, in essence, earmarked funding for additional geotech is down in undefined allowance, which we also included in this same phase, because that's really the work that, if given the chance, that's likely where we would dedicate prioritize our resources in order to collect and conduct that work. It previously was at 5.1 million. It's now down to 4.2. This is also the buffer that we absorbed those changes that we previously talked about in terms of additional scope with our comms team and additional scope with our deputy director. We were able to use this undefined allowance amount to help us maintain our top line budget target of 65 million.
So
Aaron,
if,
your hand up, so go ahead.
if we get
Okay, sure.
clearance,
So, sorry,
have-
go ahead, Marty.
Oh, pardon.
if we get clearance to do the geotech, you just pointed out where the funds are, so we would just shift them and we would be able to do that work.
That's correct. That's right. And so rather than having undefined allowance up in the executive office, which is traditionally where we've kept it, we decided in this case to go ahead and park it within the phase that we expect it to be targeted. This would be the primary location. So we positioned it closer from an overall funding management and work breakdown structure. We've positioned that unallocated reserve, but we won't issue it in task orders until we have the clear ability to conduct the work.
Okay, so you just positioned it in PD.
That's correct. We positioned
Okay.
it within the program delivery phase. That's right.
Sarah, do you have further question?
I just had a comment. I was able to follow along because I've got on another screen, I've got all the details there. It's just a silly comment. I know it looks really pretty on your slide when you go ahead and put the nice blue and then you put all the numbers on top of that. But if you have red on blue, it is real hard to see.
Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate that comment. I agree with you. Our presentation deck next year will come up with a different platform for that because the red on blue is pretty hard to read.
Yeah, it looks pretty. It really does, but just make it white. It's okay.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay. I have just a general question. From the public standpoint and anybody else who has an interest in the DCA and what we do, I just don't want anyone to have the idea that we're trying to back into a $65 million number by shifting the numbers around. So Graham, if you could give us an explanation of why the 65 million is an important number and what basically what's that based on?
Yeah, sure. And this is the approach we've used this year. It's the approach that we've used in past years and likely will be using going forward. We accept that there are funding constraints within this program, and those funding constraints are based on the funds that have been provided by the participating public water agencies. Although we're currently working on now the tail end of a multi-year commitment of funds from the PWAs, those funds are provided in a sequence. It's not all provided at the beginning of the term of work. So we're currently working on money that was provided back in 2020 for 21 through 24. We're now going to extend it all the way through 25. So there becomes a cash flow conversation that we need to think about. So it's not just trying to do everything all at once that we could possibly do. It's thinking about what can we afford, what's the right sequence of these activities, and what's critical to prioritize. So this next fiscal year represents a bridge between the previously provided 21 to 24 funding, which we intend to transition off of at the end of this calendar year, and then transition on to the more recently approved funds to cover years 26 and 27 at the PWAs. Those PWA commitments acknowledge within the background associated with those funds, it's not a linear expenditure through that 2 years. It's actually more backloaded, recognizing that we are going to be in a generally ramping up trajectory over the next several years. And so we sort of give ourselves targets when we develop our budget, recognizing what those constraints look like and kind of what we are sort of looking at in terms of our budget targets. And then we push ourselves to see how and what we can do with the funding that's available to us. So for the next fiscal year, we have the remainder of 2025, which we're targeting about $20 million as sort of our cap that we're working with. And then the start of the 2026 window, which is a significant ramp up. And that's we talk in funding, but really what we're talking about is scope of work. It's the work that we want to do and how much that work will cost. which for the second or for the first half of calendar year 26 is on the order of about 45 million, based on everything that we're doing to get ready and get ourselves into a position for delivery. So it's that thinking that gives us that target of 65 million, and then we work underneath that to honor that limit, but be as efficient as we can in terms of delivering the work and ensuring that we're prioritizing. I think you've seen it, Committee Chair Martin. We have now for 5 years running come in pretty significantly under the authorized budgets, and you know, that's through a management process. So with the board's approval of this budget, it sets the ceiling. We work underneath that through the procurement policies and our change management policies. If there were ever a need to come back and request an amendment to the overall top line budget, that would definitely be a board considered item. But for now, this represents the ceiling that we work within, and then we manage underneath it.
Okay, thank you for that, Graham. I am confident that the numbers that are being presented to the committee have the detail behind them from each of our participating organizations, including staffing, labor rates, scope of work that you've been you have used to ask proposals from the various members. So I am confident that these numbers will get us through the scope of work that we intend to, hopefully. And I would ask, though, that the unallocated reserve, is that limited to geotech, or would you have the discretion to use that money elsewhere if the need arose?
Question.
We would have the discretion to use it. So it's not limited to the phase that it's positioned, but at least in terms of representing the budget from because we've been down this road before. We represent the budget. Here's sort of how we envision it breaking down amongst the different phases. And we tend to want to position those funds in the area most likely to expend it, so that we don't have big dramatic swings and we have to spend the year sort of talking about why it is the way that it is and how it departed maybe from the original plan. It's really at this point just a hedge that if we were going to spend it, the most likely position would be there, but we are freely able to reposition it anywhere within the work breakdown structure.
Well, it would be great if we could spend it on geotechnical work. That means we're doing geotechnical work.
That would be where, yes, agreed, agreed.
So,
So-
when we
So
start,
you could,
go. You have a question?
yeah, so you could take it out of the program delivery pot altogether?
Correct. It does not limit it to being spent within program delivery. We're just positioning it in a position, we're positioning it in a spot within the work breakdown structure that's closest to where we'd like to see it spent.
You might want to, when you're presenting this to the rest of the board, to put a little asterisk on that with a little thing about, you know, that it's not necessarily stuck in the PD,
Sure.
the PD pot.
Okay.
And I presume you would keep the board apprised on movement of money of that magnitude.
Yes. Yes, we would. And what is going to be reflected in the initial task orders that we issue for July 1? So that unallocated reserve will not be issued, nor will the portion of the AECOM budget associated with the spring program, nor will that be issued. Both of those will be held back by the DCA until such a time that we're able to actually conduct that work. Then we'll issue it through task orders. Okay.
Yeah, so you might want to put something like that, you know, there's room on that slide even to put that as a little addendum, just to let people know that they don't have to question that.
Will do. Thank you.
Marty, do you have any further questions before we call for a motion?
No, I agree with your assessment of the numbers and their accuracy, and the backup is there. So I think we're in a good place to approve the budget next Wednesday.
Okay, so before we call for a motion, I just want to remind anybody listening in, watching, or the public that we were provided early in the committee process with a detailed listing of task orders for the various members of our team. And so there is definitely scope information behind all the numbers. it is certainly well beyond our ability as a committee to be checking these numbers, but that's not the purpose of the committee either. Anyway, but when we first started this process, I simply wanted to know where these numbers come from. And we've been given a very good explanation, detail behind all the numbers and the teams. And so I'm prepared to entertain a motion for approval of the item tonight or this afternoon, if either of you like to
Well,
make a motion.
And Chair.
One of the points I'd like to bring up, we have one of our regular board members with a comment, I guess. Does he come in then as a public comment?
Yeah, Chair Martin, I did want to address that, and I apologize to Director Chang. Unfortunately, the Brown Act is specific on this point. While it is okay for members of the board who attend a standing committee meeting to attend, they're actually not permitted to speak even during public comment. So Director Chang, I apologize, but we will not be able to recognize your comment.
Yeah, that was my point. Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to reiterate what you were just saying, was that the, part of our goal is to look and see if would we then bring this forward to recommend it to the board. And I think, for me, my questions have been answered and it's relatively clear. And so I would move that, yes, we should bring this forward to the board.
Marty, would you like to second that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Before we vote on it, Director Chang, rest assured you'll have an opportunity to speak at the board meeting when this comes up. So we will hear what your comments and concerns are. So with that, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
And I'd also like to confirm that we haven't received any public comment requests.
Oh, very good. Yes. Thank you.
Chair Martin,
Aye.
Committee Member Millibar,
Aye.
Committee Member Palmer.
Aye.
Okay,
And
motion passes.
okay, with that, we will take it to the board. I want to thank Graham and your team for all the effort that you've made to provide the information that the committee needed to do their best to review and make a recommendation on the budget. So thank you.
I
for
just want, yeah, could I just say, make sure you put that asterisk in there though, please.
Noted.
All right, with that, we can move to item 6, reports and announcements. 6A, verbal reports, if any. Do we have any verbal reports?
Easy for you to say.
Doesn't seem like we have any verbal reports. With that, we can move to item 7, adjournment, and the Finance Committee meeting for today is adjourned. Thank you very much. We look forward to bringing this to the full board next week and moving forward with the next year's worth of work. Thank you, Rand.
Thank you.